Part 1. The Dawn of Fate, the Boon of Kunti and the Birth of a Warrior. The world was still young when the Mahabharata's tale began to weave itself across the kingdoms of Bharatavarsha. In those times, kings ruled with valor, sages moved between earth and heaven with their tapasya, and the gods themselves often bent close to the affairs of men. Destiny walked among mortals, shaping their fates with unseen hands, and nowhere was that destiny more cruel and luminous than in the life of one child, the child who would come to be known as Karna. But to understand Karna's tale, one must return to a time before he even drew his first breath, to the palace of King Kunti, where his foster daughter, Princess Pur, the better known as Kunti, grew into womanhood. Kunti's hospitality and Durvasa's boon. Kunti was no ordinary princess. Gentle of manner yet strong of spirit, she had been given as a child to King Kunti to raise as his own daughter. Her days in the palace were filled with learning the duties of royalty, grace in speech, mastery of household management, and service to the guests who came to the king's court. One year, the fierce sage Durvasa arrived at the palace. He was known across the three worlds for his terrible temper and unpredictable nature. Few kings dared to host him, for a single slight could unleash his curse. But King Kunti welcomed him, and to young Kunti fell the duty of tending to the sage. For months she served him without complaint, fetching his water, arranging his seat of dharma grass, preparing his food exactly as he desired. Her patience never faltered, even when the sage tested her endurance with impossible demands. Durvasa, pleased with her devotion, at last offered her a boon. "My child," he said, his eyes glinting like fire hidden under ash, "you have served me with utmost respect. I shall give you a mantra by which you may summon any god of the heavens. Whomever you call, he shall appear before you and grant you a son equal to himself in splendor and might." Kunti bowed, astonished and grateful. She accepted the mantra, never guessing the burden it would one day lay upon her heart. The sun god appears. Youth is a time of curiosity, and Kunti, though virtuous, could not resist testing the truth of the sage's gift. One morning, standing by the river, she raised her hands to the sky and whispered the mantra with trembling lips. She thought only to see whether it worked, not to bind her fate. The sky blazed. A golden light poured down upon her, and before her eyes stood Surya, the resplendent sun god, his crown radiant with rays of fire, his body glowing with immeasurable brilliance. "Kunti," said Surya, his voice like the roll of thunder, "you have called me, and by the power of the mantra, I am bound to grant you a son, one equal to me in splendor. Fear not, for your virginity shall remain untouched. The child will be born by divine will." Kunti's heart raced. She wanted to protest, to send the god back, but the power of the mantra could not be undone. A divine child was placed in her womb, bright as the sun itself, armored from birth, and bearing golden earrings that gleamed like eternal flames. The birth of Karna. Months passed in secret agony. Kunti dared not reveal her condition to her father. For what shame would fall upon her name if they knew she bore a child without a husband? And yet, the god's promise was fulfilled. At dawn one day, she brought forth her son. The infant shone with an otherworldly glow. His tiny limbs were perfect, his face serene, but what marked him most were the gifts he carried into the world. The kavaka and armor fused to his body, impenetrable to weapons, and the Kundala's golden earrings that would never fade. These were divine protections, bestowed by Surya, making the child invincible. Kunti wept as she cradled him. Never had she seen beauty so pure. But fear soon swallowed her joy. How could she explain his birth? What would people say? The laws of the world were cruel to women, and her honor would be destroyed. With a trembling heart, she made her choice. She placed the infant in a wicker basket, lined it with soft cloth, and at the first light of dawn, carried it to the river Asva. Her tears fell upon his tiny brow as she whispered, "Forgive me, my son. May destiny be kinder to you than I have been." She set the basket upon the waters and watched as the current carried it away. Her child drifted down the river, away from the palace, away from his mother's arms, into the vast unknown. The charioteer's family, far from the palace, on the river's bank, lived Adhiratha, chief charioteer of King Dhritarashtra. Though of humble caste, he was noble of heart. His wife, Radha, longed for a child but had none. On that fateful morning, as Adhiratha walked by the river, he saw the basket caught among reeds. On that fateful morning, as Adhiratha walked by the river, he saw the basket caught among reeds. He lifted it and gasped at the sight of the radiant infant within. "The gods have blessed us," he cried, carrying the child to his wife. Radha's joy overflowed. She clasped the baby to her breast. tears streaming down her cheeks. "He is ours now," she whispered. "The gods themselves have sent him to us." They named him Vasusena, for he was born with wealth upon his body, the golden armor and earrings. But in time, all the world would know him by another name, Karna, the one with the golden earrings. The growing child, from his earliest years, Karna was unlike other children. His face shone with an inner light, and his strength surpassed that of boys older than him. He could fashion bows from reeds, and with them he struck birds in flight before other children could even string their toys. Yet, though blessed with godly gifts, he bore the weight of his foster parents' station. The sons of princes mocked him for being the child of a charioteer. Low-born, they called him, sneering at his eagerness to learn the arts of war. But Karna's spirit did not bow. Even as a boy, his heart burned with pride. He knew he was destined for greatness, though the world denied him honor. Foreshadow of destiny. On certain nights, when the sky was clear and the moon bathed the land in silver, Radha would cradle him and hum lullabies. Karna would look up at her and ask, "Mother, why do I feel different from the others? Why do I shine when they do not?" Radha would kiss his brow and say, "Because the gods have blessed you, my son. Never let the words of others dim your light. You are my pride, and one day the world will know your worth." But in her heart, she wondered what fate awaited the boy with the golden armor. Thus began the life of Karna, cast away by birth, raised in love, and marked forever by destiny. His journey from the river's basket to the fields of Kurukshetra was only just beginning, but already the unseen hands of fate had bound him to a path of glory and sorrow, loyalty and tragedy. The boy with the golden armor. The village lanes of Hastinapura's outskirts echoed with laughter and shouts of children. Dust rose from the ground as boys wrestled, raced, and practiced mock battles with wooden swords. Among them, a boy with coppery skin and eyes bright as a flame moved with a swiftness and strength that made him stand apart. This was Karna, son of Adhiratha and Radha, though none suspected he had been born of a god. To all the world, he was the charioteer's son, just another boy of low birth. But there was something in the way he held his head, something in the fire of his eyes, that told of greatness waiting to awaken. Childhood struggles, from an early age. Karna displayed a hunger for skill. While other boys were content to play, he fashioned bows from reeds, tying cords from twisted fibers, and aimed at birds or fruits hanging from trees. His arrows of straw struck their targets with uncanny accuracy. "Look," one boy cried, "Karna has hit the fruit again. None of us can match him." But others sneered, "What does it matter? He is only the son of a Suda, a charioteer. Even if he can shoot, he will never be a warrior." The words cut deep, though Karna never showed his hurt. He would clench his fists and answer, "A warrior is made by his skill, not his birth." Yet, at night, when he lay beside his foster mother, he sometimes asked in a whisper, "Mother, why do they scorn me so?" Radha would stroke his hair gently. "Because they are blind, my son. You were born with gifts they cannot see. The sun shines on all, though some curse its heat. Let their words not trouble you." But still, the sting of insult lodged in his young heart, seeding a lifelong wound. Adhiratha's pride. Adhiratha, too, saw his son's extraordinary talent. When Karna grew older, he began to accompany his father to the palace, driving Dhritarashtra's chariot or carrying messages. The young princes of the Kuru dynasty, Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhishthira, and the others often trained under their teachers in the royal grounds. Adhiratha would pause, watching as his boy's eyes followed every movement of the princes. The pull of the bowstring, the flash of arrows in sunlight, the rhythm of swordplay all burned themselves into Karna's mind. One evening, when the day's duties were done, Adhiratha placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Karna, I see the fire in your eyes. You long for the bow as much as I once longed for the reins of a great chariot. But remember, the world may deny you that path. They may say, 'You are a Sutaputra, stay in your place.' Will you bear their scorn and still strive forward?" Karna's jaw tightened. "Father, the bow does not ask the cast of the hand that holds it. The arrow does not choose whom to strike. Skill alone rules the battlefield. I will not stop until I am the greatest archer in all of Bharat." "I will not stop until I am the greatest archer in all of Bharat." Adhiratha smiled, though worrying clouded his eyes. "Then walk your paths, son. But no such a vow will cost you dearly." The first exhibition of the princes. When Karna was still a boy, a great event stirred Hastinapura. Guru Drona, master of arms, gathered the Kuru princes to display their skills before the court. The training grounds were filled with nobles, courtiers, and citizens eager to see the strength of those destined to rule. Karna slipped into the crowd, heart racing. He watched as Bhima lifted a heavy mace, as Yudhishthira calmly displayed his skill in the art of governance, and as Nakula and Sahadeva shone in swordsmanship and horse taming. But it was Arjuna who stole the day. With unmatched precision, he loosed arrows in rapid succession, splitting reeds, striking targets blindfolded, even shooting through rings spun upon moving wheels. The crowd roared, and Drona himself declared Arjuna his foremost pupil. Karna's fists clenched, his heart burned, not with envy alone, but with fierce determination. If Arjuna can do this, so can I and more. I was born for this. Rejection by Drona. Days later, Karna approached Drona with reverence. Master, he said, bowing low, accept me as your student. Teach me the art of the bow, and I shall honor your name with my deeds. Drona's sharp eyes studied him. Who are you, boy? I am Karna, son of Adhiratha the charioteer. The teacher's lips pressed into a thin line. A charioteer's son. The science of arms is for princes and kshatriyas, not for those of humble birth. Go, serve in the place appointed to you. Do not overreach. Karna's heart shattered. But master, is skill bound by birth? Am I not a man like any other? Give me but a chance. But Drona's gaze was cold. The rules of Dharma are not mine to break. Begone. The boy turned away, eyes burning with inched tears. That rejection would etch itself into his soul forever, a scar deeper than any wound. The secret mentor, yet Karna did not yield. He sought out other teachers, wandering far in search of knowledge. Many turned him away, some mocked him outright. But at last he came to hear of Parashurama, the terrible Brahmin warrior who had sworn vengeance on all kshatriyas. Parashurama accepted only Brahmins as his disciples. Desperate, Karna conceived a plan. Disguising himself as a Brahmin, he approached the fierce sage. Bowing low, he said, Master, I am a humble Brahmin who longs to learn the art of weapons. Accept me, and I shall serve you with devotion. Parashurama studied him. The boy's manner was earnest, his will unyielding. The sage nodded. So be it. If your heart is true, I shall teach you. Thus began Karna's secret apprenticeship. Under Parashurama's stern gaze, he learned to wield the bow until his arms trembled with exhaustion, to release arrows with unerring accuracy, to master celestial weapons whose names carried the power of gods. Remember, Parashurama thundered, the bow is your soul. Treat it with reverence. One day, you may surpass even the greatest of warriors. And Karna, with gratitude and hidden fear, swore he would. The curse of the wasp, but destiny has a way of unmasking lies. One hot afternoon, Parashurama lay resting with his head upon Karna's lap. As the sage slept, a blood-hungry wasp landed upon Karna's thigh and stung him cruelly. The pain was sharp, but Karna did not move. He feared to wake his master. The wasp dug deeper, blood flowed, yet Karna bore it silently. At last, Parashurama stirred and saw the wound. His eyes narrowed. No Brahmin could endure such agony without flinching. Speak the truth. Who are you? Karna fell at his feet. Forgive me, master. I am no Brahmin, but the son of a charioteer. Yet I sought only knowledge, for the world denied me at every step. Do not cast me away, I revere you as my father. Parashurama's face darkened with wrath. You deceived me. For this sin, hear my curse. When you most need the knowledge I have given you, it shall fail you. Your memory will betray you, and you shall be struck down by your enemy. Karna's heart sank like a stone, but he bowed low, accepting his fate. So be it, master. Your curse I shall carry, but your name I shall honor. The second curse. Another day, as Karna walked the forest, he came across a cow belonging to a Brahmin. Startled, it charged, and Karna loosed an arrow that struck it dead. The Brahmin, grieving, cursed him. As you have slain my innocent beast, so shall your life end helpless, struck down when your strength fails you. Thus, even in youth, destiny bound Karna in chains of sorrow, curses lying heavy upon his shoulders. Curses lying heavy upon his shoulders, returned to Hastinapura. When he returned to the capital, older now, with muscles hardened and skill honed, Karna walked with the bearing of a warrior. Yet the taunts did not cease. One day, as he passed a group of princes, he saw Arjuna practicing archery, surrounded by admirers. Without thinking, Karna picked up a bow and mimicked the feat, matching every shot. Gasps rose from the crowd. "Who is this youth who dares rival Arjuna?" they cried. But then, whispers spread. "He is but the son of Adhiratha the charioteer. How can he compare to the princes of the Kuru line?" And though Karna's arrows struck true, their scorn rang louder than his skill. Thus, the boy with the golden armor grew into a youth of unmatched strength and sorrowful pride. Fate had given him the gifts of gods, yet the world bound him with chains of caste. His heart hardened, his resolve deepened, and in silence he swore, "One day, I will show them all. One day, the world will know the name of Karna." The arena of fate. The sun blazed high above Hastinapura, its rays falling upon the grand arena built for a day of spectacle. The wooden stands overflowed with nobles, warriors, courtiers, and common folk alike. All had come to witness the skill of the princes of the Kuru line, for today was not merely an exhibition but a display of the power that would one day rule the kingdom. On the royal dais sat King Dhritarashtra, blind but regal, with his queen Gandhari by his side. Beside him stood Bhishma, the grandsire of the Kurus, his white beard gleaming in the sunlight, his face stern but proud. Drona, the master of arms, watched with the teacher's sharp eyes, while Kripa, the other royal preceptor, observed in silence. And at the very center of it all stood the princes themselves, the sons of Pandu and the sons of Dhritarashtra, resplendent in their youth and strength, Arjuna's glory. The exhibition began with feats of skill. Bhima displayed his unmatched strength, wrestling with maces so heavy they bent the ground. The twins Nakula and Sahadeva dazzled with swordplay and mastery over horses. Yudhishthira, calm and composed, showed his knowledge of Dharma in judgments posed by Drona. But when Arjuna stepped forward, the crowd rose as one. His bow, Gandiva, gleamed in the sunlight. With fluid grace, he strung it and let loose a storm of arrows. He split a single arrow midair with another. He shot blindfolded, guided only by sound. He pierced the eye of a moving bird atop a tall pole, never glancing at its body but focusing only on the mark. He created a canopy of arrows so thick that sunlight itself seemed barred. The people roared, "Arjuna, Arjuna! Truly, he is peerless, the greatest archer of all time." Drona's chest swelled with pride, and Bhishma's lips curved in a rare smile. Dhritarashtra, though blind, nodded, hearing the waves of admiration. It seemed as though the day belonged to Arjuna alone. The challenger appears, but fate had written otherwise. As Arjuna bowed to his master, a ripple of movement stirred at the edge of the arena. A tall youth stepped forth, broad-shouldered, radiant as the rising sun. His skin glowed with a coppery hue, and from his ears shone golden candelas, flashing like fire. Upon his chest lay the natural armor of the gods, fused to his very flesh. It was Karna. The crowd murmured in surprise. "Who is he? Whence has this warrior come?" Karna bowed slightly, then raised his voice, deep and confident. "Arjuna's feats are indeed worthy, but let it not be thought that he is the only archer alive. I, too, shall perform all that he has done and more." Gasps rose. Bhishma's brows knitted in surprise. Drona frowned. Arjuna himself narrowed his eyes, feeling the spark of rivalry ignite. Without waiting, Karna lifted his bow and strung it with effortless strength. His arrows flew swift and sure, splitting reeds, piercing targets, carving patterns in the air. Every feat that Arjuna had shown, Karna matched, and when he was done, he added more, striking targets in darkness, severing arrows mid-flight, creating a wheel of fire in the sky with shafts tipped in flame. The crowd thundered in astonishment. "Another Arjuna has been born. Who is this youth? From where does he come?" The duel proposed. Arjuna's pride flared. Stepping forward, he said, "Stranger, you mimic my feats well, but a warrior is proven only against another. If you claim equality, then face me now in single combat." The crowd erupted in excitement. A duel between these two dazzling youths promised glory. But even as anticipation swelled, Kripa, ever bound by tradition, raised his hand. "Hold," he cried. His voice carried across the arena. "This youth has displayed skill, yes, but who is he? What is his lineage? For in combat between princes, lineage is as vital as ability. Let him declare his parentage before this challenge proceeds." All eyes turned to Karna. All eyes turned to Karna. The humiliation, Karna's lips parted, but no words came. What could he say? That he was born of the sun god and abandoned by a princess at birth? He himself did not know the truth of his divine parentage. To the world, he was only the son of Adhiratha, the charioteer. Kripa's voice grew sharper. "If you are of royal blood, name your father, your house." If you are not, then you cannot duel with princes of the Kuru line. Arjuna's eyes flashed with scorn. A charioteer's son dares stand beside me. Know your place, boy. The bow belongs to Kshatriyas, not to those of low birth. Step aside before you bring greater shame upon yourself. Laughter rippled through the ranks of princes. Some looked with pity, others with disdain. Karna's face burned. His heart raged within him, for he knew his skill equaled or surpassed Arjuna's. Yet his accursed birth denied him honor. His bow trembled in his hands, not from fear but from the weight of insult. He lowered it, his silence heavier than any cry. Duryodhana's boldness. But in that moment, when all seemed lost, a voice rang out clear and strong. Enough! All turned to see Duryodhana, eldest of Dhritarashtra's sons, rise from his seat. His eyes shone with fierce resolve as he strode into the arena. Is this the justice of Hastinapura? He demanded. A man's worth measured by his birth, not his skill. Then what is left of valor? What is left of Dharma? He turned to Karna, placing a hand upon his shoulder. If Arjuna is the mightiest of the Pandavas, then Karna shall be my mightiest ally. If lineage is demanded, then I, Duryodhana, son of Dhritarashtra, shall provide it. I crown him today as the king of Anga. Gasps filled the air. Before any could stop him, Duryodhana called for attendance. A throne was brought, ornaments of royalty placed upon Karna's head. Sacred water was poured, and in the very arena itself, Karna was anointed as Angaraja, the king of Anga. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Some cheered, some muttered in outrage. Bhishma frowned deeply, and Drona's lips tightened in anger. But Duryodhana stood proud, and Karna, overwhelmed with gratitude, bowed low before him. The oath of friendship. In that moment, Karna's life was bound to Duryodhana's. His voice shook with emotion as he declared, "O Prince, today you have given me honor when the world sought only to disgrace me. As long as I live, my loyalty is yours. My bow shall defend you, my life shall serve you. Till my last breath, I am your friend." Duryodhana clasped his hands. "And I, Karna, shall stand by you against all. Together, we shall rule the world." The two embraced before the stunned assembly. Thus was forged a friendship that would outlast every trial, stronger than blood, stronger even than fate. The shadow of fate, but fate has many faces. As the new king of Anga turned to take his place beside Duryodhana, his foster father Adhirata, the humble charioteer, rushed forward to embrace him. Seeing this, Bhima sneered cruelly. "Behold, the son of a charioteer embraces his sire. Such as the king Duryodhana has chosen a crown for a Sutaputra." Laughter rang again, sharp as knives. But Karna said nothing. He only bowed to his father, then stood tall beside his friend. His silence was not submission, but a vow. One day, I will prove myself. One day, the laughter shall turn to awe. From the stands, the gods themselves seemed to watch. The sun burned brighter upon the boy with the golden armor, as though the heavens marked him for greatness and sorrow alike. Thus ended the day of the exhibition, not with Arjuna's triumph alone, but with the birth of a rivalry that would shake the world, and with the forging of a friendship that would shape destiny itself. Karna had found his place not in the acceptance of the world, but in the loyalty of one man. And for that loyalty, he would give everything. The king of Anga. The dust of the exhibition ground had scarcely settled when the news spread across Bharatavarsha like wildfire. A new king had been crowned in Hastinapura's arena. A youth of radiant bearing, crowned not by lineage but by the daring will of Duryodhana himself, now sat upon the throne of Anga. Thus, Karna, son of a charioteer yet gifted with the brilliance of the sun, entered into royalty. The kingdom of Anga. The land of Anga lay eastward, bordered by the sacred river Kampa. Its fields were fertile, its merchants prosperous, and its warriors strong. But for years, its throne had lain under the sway of Hastinapura, without a ruler of its own blood. When Duryodhana gave it to Karna, he gave more than a crown. He gave him honor, authority, and a place in the great web of kings. He gave him honor, authority, and a place in the great web of kings. The people of Anga, at first bewildered by the sudden coronation, soon found cause to rejoice. Karna ruled not with arrogance but with compassion. He walked among his subjects, listening to their grievances, offering gifts to the poor, and honoring Brahmins and teachers alike. His generosity became legend. "Ask of me what you will," he would say to any who approached. "While I live, no one shall leave my presence empty-handed." From this vow, the world began to call him Danvir Karna, the great giver. Friendship with Duryodhana, though he wore a crown, Karna's heart belonged always to his friend. Duryodhana had lifted him when the world cast him down, and for that loyalty Karna gave his very soul. Often the two rode together in their chariots, hunting in the forests or training with weapons upon the fields. They shared laughter, counsel, and dreams. Duryodhana spoke often of the throne of Hastinapura, of the shadow cast by the Pandavas, and of the day he would rule unchallenged. And Karna would answer, "When that day comes, my bow shall strike for you. Against any foe, even the gods themselves, I stand with you." So strong was their bond that many whispered, "Duryodhana has found in Karna the brother destiny denied him." The Pandavas' suspicion, but if Karna's rise filled Duryodhana with joy, it planted bitterness in the hearts of the Pandavas. Bhima scoffed openly, "See how fortune favors him. A crown for the son of Asuda. He should be at the reins of a chariot, not upon a throne." Arjuna's heart burned more quietly, but no less fiercely. His pride had been challenged, his supremacy in archery questioned. "He mimics my skill," Arjuna told his brothers, "but mimicry is not mastery. One day, I shall face him, and the world shall know the difference." Only Yudhishthira, ever calm, counseled moderation. "Do not despise him for his birth, my brothers. A man's deeds speak louder than his lineage. Yet beware his friendship with Duryodhana will bring him into our path as an enemy." Thus, enmity began to grow, watered by rivalry and pride. Bhishma's disapproval. In the halls of Hastinapura, not all looked kindly upon this new bond. Bhishma, the grandsire, called Duryodhana to him. "Son of Dhritarashtra," he said sternly, "your act in crowning Karna was rash. Though the boy is skilled, he is not of noble birth. By raising him, you have slighted your equals and dishonored Dharma." But Duryodhana met his gaze unflinching. "Grandsire, what is Dharma if it denies a man for his birth? Karna is more worthy of a crown than many princes born to it. He is my friend, and I will not cast him aside." Bhishma's eyes softened, though his frown remained. "Your loyalty is admirable, but beware such loyalty may one day cost you dearly. The path of kingship is not trodden by affection alone." Yet Duryodhana would not be swayed. His faith in Karna was uncheckable. The encounter with Krishna. In time, word of Karna's rise reached far and wide, even to the ears of Krishna of Dwaraka, who often came to Hastinapura as ally and advisor to the Pandavas. Curious, Krishna sought an audience with the new king of Anga. He found Karna in his court, seated upon a throne yet humble in manner, hearing the pleas of his subjects. When the hall was clear, Krishna approached. "Karna," he said, his voice both gentle and probing, "the world marvels at your skill and your generosity. Yet you bind yourself to Duryodhana, whose heart walks often in the path of adharma. Why?" Karna met his gaze steadily. "Because when all others mocked me, he alone gave me honor. He saw in me not my birth, but my worth. For that, my life is his." Krishna studied him, and in that moment, perhaps, saw the great tragedy to come. He sighed softly, "Loyalty is a noble thing, Karna, but beware where it is placed. A sword of shining steel may serve Dharma or it may serve destruction." But Karna only bowed. "My path is chosen, Madhava. Even if it leads to ruin, I shall not betray my friend." Krishna said no more. He knew that destiny's chains had already bound this warrior. The growing rivalry, the days turned into months, and the rivalry between Karna and Arjuna grew like fire beneath ash. Whenever the Pandavas trained, Karna appeared. Whenever Arjuna won praise, Karna stood nearby, his eyes blazing with challenge. Once, at a tournament in Hastinapura, Karna publicly vowed, "I will not rest until I prove myself Arjuna's equal or his better. Let the world judge us when we stand face to face, bow against bow." The crowd roared, eager for the day such a duel might come. Arjuna answered coldly, "That day will come, Karna. And when it does, your arrogance shall fall with you." Thus, the seeds of their great rivalry were sown deep, destined to bloom in the fire of war. Thus, the seeds of their great rivalry were sown deep, destined to bloom in the fire of war. Foreshadow of war. In quiet moments, when the moon rose over the palace of Anga, Karna sometimes walked alone, gazing at the river where the stars shimmered. Despite his crown, despite his friend's loyalty, the sting of scorn still lingered. "Why was I born so?" he would whisper. "Why does the world deny me for what I cannot change?" Yet each time, he clenched his fists and raised his chin. "No matter if the gods themselves conspire against me, I shall carve my name into the earth with my bow." The world will not forget Karna. Far above, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as though the heavens themselves bore witness. But whether they shone in blessing or in warning, none could say. Thus, Karna's life as king of Anga began not with peace, but with rivalry and oaths, with friendships that bound him, and enmities that shadowed his every step. His fate was a river already rushing toward the great ocean of Kurukshetra, though he knew it not. The vows of fire, the weight of a crown. Though Karna had been crowned king of Anga, the throne brought him not only honor but also burden. He rose with the dawn, heard the petitions of farmers, merchants, and Brahmins, and in the evenings trained tirelessly, refining every skill of warfare. Yet deep within him lay a restless fire. It was not enough to rule justly, nor to give generously. His soul yearned for recognition, true recognition, the kind that could not be mocked or doubted. The punt of his words still rang in his ears, son of a pseudo. And so Karna's life became a vow in itself, to rise higher than all who scorned him. Challenges in the court. Karna's presence in Hastinapura's royal court was both admired and feared. Many kings welcomed him as Duryodhana's equal, marveling at his valor. Yet others whispered doubts. One day, in the assembly hall, Bhima could bear it no longer. Brother, he said loudly to Yudhishthira, though his eyes never left Karna, is it not strange that a charioteer's son should sit among kings, as though born of noble blood? Perhaps next we shall see grooms and stable boys upon thrones. The court chuckled, but Karna rose slowly, his gaze fixed upon Bhima. Mighty Bhima, he said, his voice steady, a throne is not won by birth but by deeds. And if you think me unworthy, draw your mace, and let us see who earns the right to sit among warriors. The hall fell silent. Bhima's great hands tightened around his weapon, but Yudhishthira placed a restraining palm upon his brother's arm. Peace, Bhima, he said. A king need not prove himself with every insult hurled. The world will judge Karna by his deeds, as he himself has said. Yet Bhima's glare promised that this enmity was far from settled. The fire of rivalry, Arjuna's rivalry, with Karna deepened with each passing day. Whenever Arjuna displayed some new skill in archery, Karna sought to match it. Whenever Karna rode into the field and showed his might, Arjuna trained twice as hard, vowing he would not be surpassed. The people of Hastinapura began to murmur of a coming duel that would outshine all contests before. Children in the streets debated, who is greater, Arjuna or Karna? And so the two warriors became bound not by friendship, but by destiny's chain of rivalry. The Swayamvara of Draupadi. The fire of this rivalry found its first great spark at the Swayamvara of Draupadi, princess of Panchala. Kings and princes gathered from every corner of Bharatavarsha, each seeking her hand. A great bow was placed before the assembly, massive and unyielding, with a target high above. Whosoever could string the bow and strike the target would win Draupadi's hand. One by one, mighty kings approached. Some could not even lift the bow. Others strained and failed to bend it. Laughter and jeers filled the air. Then Arjuna, disguised as a humble Brahmin, stepped forward. With ease and grace, he strung the bow, loosed the arrow, and struck the target true. The hall erupted in astonishment. Draupadi's garland was his. But before the ceremony could conclude, Karna rose from his seat. His eyes burned with fire as he strode toward the bow. Why should a Brahmin claim this prize? He thundered, let warriors prove their worth. The crowd gasped not, for who could deny Karna's right to attempt? His prowess was known across the land. Yet when Karna laid his hand upon the bow, Draupadi's voice rang out, sharp and clear. I will not wed the son of a charioteer. The hall froze. Karna's hand tightened on the bowstring, but he released it slowly. The insult struck deeper than any arrow. For a moment, he stood motionless, his face a mask. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. The whispers followed him like daggers, son of a pseudo, unworthy. The whispers followed him like daggers, son of a pseudo, unworthy, the vow of enmity. That night, in the palace of Anga, Karna sat alone, the shadows heavy around him. His heart seethed. Draupadi's words had reopened every wound of scorn, every memory of humiliation. When Duryodhana came to him, Karna's eyes blazed. By my bow, I swear, Karna said, that one day I shall humble the Pandavas. Arjuna shall fall by my hand, and Draupadi shall learn that the son of a charioteer is not to be scorned. Duryodhana placed a hand upon his shoulder. My friend, your vow is mine. Together we shall bring the Pandavas to their knees. Thus, Karna's rivalry with Arjuna hardened into destiny. The world takes sides. The world now divided itself in whispers. Some admired Karna's loyalty and generosity, calling him the equal of any prince. Others scorned him still, repeating Draupadi's words with cruel delight. But among the poor and the helpless, Karna became a hero. To them, he was not a king of birth but a king of deeds. His court was open to all, no beggar left empty-handed. And so the name of Don Vir Karna spread across Bharatavarsha. Yet even as songs were sung in his honor, the shadow of his rivalry with the Pandavas grew darker, leading both sides toward the great war destiny had woven. Foreshadow of fating dreams. Karna sometimes saw himself standing upon a battlefield, the earth trembling beneath the wheels of his chariot. Opposite him stood Arjuna, bow raised, eyes locked with his own. Between them stretched not just rivalry, but the fate of the world itself. When he woke, he would tell himself it was only a dream. Yet deep in his heart, he knew the truth. Such a day was coming, and no power on earth could prevent it. Thus, the Swayamvara of Draupadi became a turning point in Karna's life, not for love, but for rivalry, humiliation, and vows that bound his future. From this day onward, his enmity with Arjuna was sealed by fire, and his loyalty to Duryodhana unbreakable. The road to Kurukshetra had begun. The dice of duty, the marriage of Draupadi. After Draupadi's Swayamvara, the Pandavas revealed their true identities, no longer disguised as Brahmins. Arjuna had won her hand, but destiny decreed otherwise. She was to be wife not to one, but to all 5 brothers. The news spread swiftly, astonishing kings and kingdoms alike. Whispers filled the courts. 5 brothers, 1 bride. Some called it strange, others called it divine will. But none took it harder than Karna. He had already borne the sting of Draupadi's rejection. Now she stood not only as Arjuna's bride, but as queen to all the Pandavas, his rivals, his enemies. Her laughter, her beauty, her disdain, they haunted him. In his heart, bitterness hardened further. If I could not win her, then let her be the root of her husband's downfall. The game of dice. Time passed. The Pandavas prospered, building the magnificent city of Indraprastha. Their glory spread across Bharatavarsha, drawing kings into their alliance. This rise gnawed at Duryodhana's pride and Karna's envy alike. It was then that Shakuni, uncle of Duryodhana, whispered his venomous plan. Let us challenge Yudhishthira to a game of dice. For he is noble, but he cannot resist the game, and through it, we shall strip him of all. The hall of dice was prepared in Hastinapura, its polished floor gleaming under oil lamps. Kings and courtiers gathered, among them Karna, seated beside Duryodhana as his champion and friend. The game began. Shakuni cast the dice with cunning, and fortune turned always to Duryodhana's side. Yudhishthira lost his jewels, his lands, his kingdom, his wealth. Still he played, bound by pride, bound by fate. One by one, he gambled away his brothers, then himself. At last, with trembling hands, he staked Draupadi. The dice rolled. Shakuni smiled. Draupadi was lost. A stunned silence filled the hall, broken by Duryodhana's laughter. Bring Draupadi, he commanded. Let her be clothed in servitude before us. The humiliation of Draupadi. Draupadi was dragged into the hall by Dushasana, her eyes blazing with fury and shame. What is this outrage? She demanded. Was Yudhishthira master of himself when he staked me? If he had already lost himself, what right had he over me? Her words struck like thunder. Even the elders Bhishma, Drona, the door sat troubled, unable to answer. But Duryodhana only mocked her. He patted his thigh and jeered. Come, Draupadi, sit upon my lap. The court gasped in horror. Draupadi's cheeks burned with humiliation. It was then that Karna, loyal to his friend yet blinded by his own bitterness, rose to speak. Karna's cruel words. Draupadi, Karna said, his voice sharp as steel, you question the wager. A woman is the property of her husband. When Yudhishthira lost himself, you too were lost. You are now a slave, fit not for queenship but for servitude. You are now a slave, fit not for queenship but for servitude. His words cut deeper than swords. Draupadi's eyes filled with tears, but her voice did not falter. Karna, she said, you speak of Dharma. Yet what Dharma is this that you, born of a charioteer, call me unworthy? You wound me not only with words, but with your own shame. But Karna did not relent. Take off her ornaments, he ordered Dushasana. Let this princess be stripped, that she may learn humility. Dushasana seized Draupadi's robes and pulled. She cried out to Krishna, her heart shattering. And miracle answered. Her sari did not end. As Dushasana pulled, the cloth flowed endlessly, wrapping her in layers unbroken. Pile upon pile, the hall filled with garments, until Dushasana collapsed, exhausted. The court fell silent in awe. It was Krishna's protection that saved her, not the mercy of men. Yet Karna's words lingered, staining his name with a cruelty history would never forgive. The aftermath. At last, Bhishma and Vidura cried out for justice. The Pandavas, freed by the miracle, swore vengeance. Draupadi, humiliated yet unbroken, raised her hand and swore, "I shall not bind my hair until it is bathed in the blood of Dushasana." The hall shook with the weight of vows, of shame, of destiny. Karna stood beside Duryodhana, outwardly proud but inwardly shaken. His words had cut Draupadi, but they had also scarred him. Deep in his heart, a voice whispered, "Was this Dharma? Or have I chained myself forever to Adharma?" But loyalty held him silent. To Duryodhana, he had given his life. And so Karna walked deeper into the shadow, one step further from redemption. Thus ends the first great arc of Karna's story, the dawn of fate. We have seen him born of divine light, abandoned to the river, raised in humble hands. We have seen him rise through hardship, mocked for his birth yet radiant with skill. We have watched him win a crown not by lineage but by loyalty, and bind himself forever to Duryodhana in friendship and gratitude. We have seen his greatness, his generosity, his valor, his uncheckable resolve. And we have seen his flaws, his pride, his envy, and his words that wounded Draupadi more deeply than any sword. In Karna shines the paradox of human destiny. A man gifted by the gods, yet cursed by circumstance, a hero to the poor, yet an enemy to Dharma. A warrior whose bow could rival Arjuna's, yet whose heart chained him to the wrong side of history. Part 1 leaves Karna standing at the threshold of war, his vows binding him, his enmities sharpened, his path darkening. Ahead lies Kurukshetra, the battlefield where the fate of Bharatavarsha shall be decided. When next we step into his story, in Part 2, The Road to Kurukshetra, we will follow Karna through exile, alliances, the gathering of kings, and the inexorable march toward the greatest war ever fought. Karna's dawn has ended. The day of destiny begins. We have witnessed his divine birth and painful abandonment, his rise from obscurity to kingship, his loyalty to Duryodhana, and his bitter rivalry with Arjuna. We have seen his greatness as a warrior and giver, and his flaws, pride, anger, and words that would forever stain his name. Karna stands now at the edge of destiny. Ahead lies Kurukshetra, the battlefield where friends will become foes, and where Dharma and Adharma will clash in fire and blood. His dawn has ended. The day of fate begins. And this is only the beginning of his epic journey. If you've walked with Karna through this first chapter of destiny, I invite you to continue the journey with me. Like this video if Karna's story moved you, subscribe for the next part of this epic saga, and share it with those who love history, mythology, and timeless tales of honor and tragedy. Your support ensures that we can keep bringing these ancient stories back to life in vivid detail. Together, we'll uncover not just the battles, but the hearts, choices, and fates that made the Mahabharata eternal. So stay with me because Karna's story has only just begun.